Now, let's listen a little bit to Obama. Obama on CNN on May 2008, what he's looking for in a Supreme Court justice. Cut 1, go.
What you're looking for is somebody who's going to apply the law where it's clear. Now, there's going to be those 5% of cases or 1% of cases where the law isn't clear. And the judge then has to bring in his or her own perspectives, his ethics, his or her moral bearings. And in those circumstances, what I do want is a judge who is sympathetic enough to those who are on the outside, those who are vulnerable, those who are powerless, those who can't have access to political power and as a consequence can't protect themselves from being dealt with sometimes unfairly. That the courts become a refuge for justice.
Now, this is amazing. The 1 or 5% of the time, he wants it 100% of the time. So he's lying. And when you give justices this kind of power, that's power that can be used to abuse the individual, to abuse certain races and ethnicities. Why would you give people who are appointed for life, who essentially you cannot remove or won't remove, this kind of power? Where is that in the Constitution? Where is that in the constitutional debates? Where is that in the beginning of this nation? Where is it stated? Nowhere. Nowhere at all. This Constitution would never have been ratified by the states, let alone passed by the Congress, had the representative bodies in the states believed that the Supreme Court would have the power that it has today. None of the Founding Fathers articulated the view that you just heard from the President. None of them. And why would they? You can't call yourself the greatest representative republic on the face of the earth and then confer all this power in 5 justices, 5 of 9, who are going to make all these decisions, who are going to substitute their views for yours. Their job is to interpret the Constitution and to give their opinion. To do justice, what does that mean? To spread the wealth? What does that mean? To give rights to the enemy? Did the Supreme Court do justice in the Dred Scott decision, in which it upheld slavery? Was that justice? Did the Supreme Court do justice in the Plessy case, where it upheld segregation? Did the Supreme Court do justice in the Korematsu case, where it upheld the internment by FDR of 100,000 Japanese Americans? And from my perspective, did the Supreme Court do justice on the abortion issue? And yet it decided all these issues and created misery for so many people. Let us not pretend that all the genius exists with the majority of the Supreme Court justices. And if you are a liberal, you should know better too. You should know better too. If you think you're going to find a safe haven on the court, you're not. You're not. Now, Obama claims to have taught constitutional law for 10 years. He was not a full professor. Do you understand that? He was not a full professor. So let's knock him down a notch on that and do a reality check. Let's not lie about his resume. He's an activist. He's an activist. Now let's listen to Obama on NBC's Nightly News. Let's get cut, what is it? Cut 7? Let's get cut 7 together here. Actually, this is Obama in 2001. Now, we played this during the election. We found this. WBEZ, 2001, a radio interview. Now, listen very carefully, because this is crucial, and this reveals the real Barack Obama before he ran for president, before he even thought about running for president in 2001, when he was a backbencher state senator in Illinois. Put up the volume. It's about 1 minute 40 seconds. Cut 7. Go.
You know, if you look at the victories and failures of the civil rights movement and its litigation strategy in the court, I think where it succeeded was to vest formal rights in previously dispossessed peoples, so that I would now have the right to vote. I would now be able to sit at a lunch counter and order, and as long as I could pay for it, I'd be okay.
Right there. Let's stop right there. The Supreme Court didn't do that. The Civil Rights Movement did that. A political movement that started in the black churches in the South. That's what started that. The Supreme Court upheld Plessy versus Ferguson for over half a century. Separate but equal is equal. Let us not pretend that the Supreme Court ended that in Brown versus Board of Education. The Supreme Court reversed itself in Plessy. But if it hadn't been for Martin Luther King and other ministers and preachers in the South, if it hadn't been for black leaders in the Civil Rights Movement, none of this would have happened. Now let's be honest. It wasn't the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court was late. Go ahead.
But the Supreme Court never ventured into the issues of redistribution of wealth and sort of more basic issues of political and economic justice in the society. And to that extent, as radical as I think people tried to characterize the Warren Court, it wasn't that radical. It didn't break free from the essential constraints that were placed by the Founding Fathers in the Constitution.
All right, stop. You see, the redistribution of wealth is the recurring theme with Obama. Those are his policies. Those are his beliefs. Those are his motivation. And the court wasn't so radical, even under Warren, he says, because the court wouldn't go there. Now, this is where I'm going to draw a little bit of my expertise and bring it in so you fully understand how radical this man is and how radical his nominee will be of any of those that I've heard. They have absolutely no intention of following the Constitution. They have every intention of constitutionalizing their political, economic, and social views and then insisting that that's what the Constitution means and that's what we must follow.